you. At pain of death, I have to pass on Peter Boyd's best wishes, and he did a great presentation for us this morning, so we thank Peter for that. He had to go back to London, unfortunately. So Richard, you were once a climate change skeptic, and I've just read your book, which I thought it was business as usual, and I'm slightly colourblind, and I then saw that it was actually screwed business as usual, which put a whole different complexion on things. And from the book, you're a great advocate of social and environmental issues, but at one stage you were a climate change skeptic. So what actually happened to change your attitude?
Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for buying Tubular Bells. I think I was sort of comfortably a skeptic because I owned airlines and other sort of fairly dirty businesses. Reading quite a lot of literature, I thought that there was enough doubts to assuage my guilt. And then one day I was actually in the bath, and there was a big banging on my front door. I went down and opened the door in my dressing gown, and Al Gore was standing outside. He'd arrived uninvited, and I invited him in. It was before Inconvenient Truth, before I realised just how passionate he felt about it. Yeah. And he gave me a 1.5 hour lecture, and he said, look, don't just let me convince you, but go and see other people. So I met James Lovelock, and I met Tim Flannery, and I met a number of other scientists, and changed my opinion. Clinton and Al Gore suggested to me that I was a businessman and fairly high profile, and therefore maybe I could use myself to try to rally business support. And so at the Clinton Global Initiative, we decided to pledge to put the profits from our dirty businesses into trying to develop clean fuels.
Thank you. Great, thanks very much.
The one thing that Scotland and
the English cup of tea, so
yes, the one thing that Scotland and the Caribbean share is lots of islands, and I suspect you get the better weather. What makes you think that, particularly in addressing climate change, the role of islands almost as climate change laboratories, and you in particular putting forward the particular place where you live as an example of that?
Well, first of all, island states are going to suffer, I think, more than most, and therefore it's important that they, that they try to rally the world to protect island states. Secondly, most islands have got plenty of wind, they've got a lot of sun, and therefore they're perfect for making clean energy affordable. To get fuel to islands, you have to use ships to get it there. It's very expensive. So the economics of actually turning island states into clean energy, into clean energy, makes sense. So we've had a couple of conferences here trying to rally the various islands together, and to try to help put people with money together with parliaments, and to also show the countries in the islands that how to do it and how it can be effective. And obviously we've got to get Mecca as a shining example, and we're in the process of doing that. So 6 months from now, we ought to be as near as carbon neutral.
Yeah, thanks very much. And I saw from the book that you had a bet with the Prime Minister of Aruba to see who would be 100% renewable first. I suspect you're going to win the bet by the sound of it.
I'm not a fool when I do bets. He's got 100,000 population, but we've got 100 people. So if I don't win it, it would be a bit of a disgrace.
Yeah, okay, that's logical. So, how do you reconcile your? You must have been asked this question many times. How do you reconcile your passion to reduce carbon with owning an airline and working on Virgin Galactic spaceship?
Well, I think the airline, I think, is reasonably easy to reconcile in that I suspect most people in this room had to travel on planes and trains to get places, and I think most environmentalists had to, and it's just a fact of life. So what we've got to try to do is make flying clean, because it does use an incredible amount of fuel per passenger. So we've been working with various different companies to try to create clean fuel that does not eat into the food supply. There's one wonderful company called Lanzatech. It was set up by a British person. He's based in New Zealand, and he came up with the idea that maybe he could take the waste product that goes up the chimneys of steel plants and aluminium plants and turn it into jet aviation fuel. And he's tested it. It works. He's now setting up refineries, clean refineries, next to these dirty aluminium plants and steel plants in China. And Virgin Atlantic have got an arrangement that we'll get that fuel as and when it comes off. So the perfect kind of recycling you could imagine. And then obviously algae is another very hopeful method. Isobutanol is another hopeful method. Algae you can grow quite quickly. You can grow it densely in the whole barrel rather than just the top of the barrel. So I think there are hopeful signs, but it's taken, as always, taking a lot longer than we thought to get the kind of quantities that we'd like. As far as space is concerned, going to space in the past has been unbelievably expensive. Putting satellites into space has been unbelievably expensive. Expensive not just in cost terms, but in environmental terms. I think a NASA spaceship cost $1.25 billion to put up there, and it used up a lot of New York's electricity supply, the equivalent of, in the process. We can put people into space for less than an economy class return ticket, London to New York, so per person. So we've brought the environmental output down to almost a tiny amount, and I think we'll be able to get it down to almost zero in the years to come. And then putting satellites into space, which I think can transform people's lives back here on Earth in a really positive way. We're going to be able to do that for a fraction of the price that it's cost in the past. One thing we're looking at is putting up more satellites in 3 or 4 years' time than there are satellites up there. That will mean that 3 billion people who don't have mobile phones will be able to get mobile phones. People who don't have internet access will be able to get internet access. Therefore, through the internet, they'll be able to get educated. Through the mobile phones, they'll be able to set up jobs. And I think there's a lot of good environmental things that we can do with a massive array of satellites that we can't do today.
Well, thanks for that. Just a rider to that question. I think you set yourself the target of reducing Virgin Atlantic's emissions by 30% by 2020. By the sound of it, you might be a good way towards doing that already.
Well, the 30% is not to do with the clean fuel. If we can actually get the clean fuel quantities, then we will. That would be an easy figure to reach, and hopefully would be better. But the way that we're actually doing it is pushing towards planes that are built of carbon fibre, or much of the planes built on carbon fibre rather than heavy metal. We're still pushing to try to get our planes towed to and from the end of the runways rather than using fuel. And just looking at a whole array of different ways, like working with air traffic control in Europe to try to make flying, trying to get our planes to be able to fly in one straight line rather than all over the place, depending on the whim of the air traffic controller and so on.
Okay, thank you.
So Richard, Scotland, a modern industrialised country, it has a target of 100% of its electricity to be delivered by renewable energy by 2020. Targets are a great thing, they're a great driver of public policy, but how does that reflect into business opportunities, particularly across the rest of the world? What do you see the opportunities are for renewable energy in places such as China or Africa or the Far East?
I think that the opportunities for entrepreneurs in renewable energy are gigantic. I mean, it's I don't think there's any one single sector out there that's more exciting. We need entrepreneurs in Africa. We need more entrepreneurs in China. We need more entrepreneurs in Scotland, just to get out and bring these dreams to reality. And make money in the process, and be proud of the fact they've made money in the process. So Scotland has a lot of wind, and I know that there's planning issues to get windmills up there, but I think I just love the idea that our energy is created from natural resources like wind, like sun, like waves, and not from digging up finite dirty fuels from under the ground.
Fine, thanks. And just to round up, the whole basis behind your sort of carbon war room is the fact that low carbon and carbon reduction is one of the biggest business opportunities facing the world just now. You just want to finally give us some thoughts on how you think that should be taken forward, particularly across the globe.
Well, I mean, the Carbon War Room we set up, we set up two initiatives. We set up the Carbon War Room and the Virgin Earth Prize. The Carbon War Room was there to try to work with the 22 industries that put out the most carbon, and try to come up with imaginative ways of them taking carbon out of their industries, saving themselves money, and to reduce the damage to the environment. The team there have done a great job. I think my only wish would be that we could get a little bit more support from a few more businesses to support other sectors, because we're not tackling the 22 sectors at the moment. The Earth Prize is a prize that we set up, a $25 million prize, to try to get technicians and scientists and just ordinary people to see, if everything else fails, can we come up with a genius way of extracting carbon out of the Earth's atmosphere? Because if somebody can do that with enough quantity, we could then balance the Earth's temperature, and we won't have to have these conferences. So, I'm actually in discussions with one or two people to see whether they could, also maybe chip in a promise of another 25 million, so we could make it the biggest prize there is on there, to really encourage people to go for it.
Great, thank you. One final question.
Yeah, a final one for me, slightly flippant, but you're a great publicist, Sir Richard, and you've used that to promote the Virgin brand exceptionally successfully over quite a long period of time now. What should we do to publicise renewables? Strap a politician to a wind turbine, or what should we be doing? Can you give us a recommendation as to how we should move forward and get some more publicity for renewables?
Well, I think we need to fight back against the climate skeptics with facts. We must be careful not to exaggerate facts. And just give the facts themselves are strong enough to win the argument. So we've got to sort of pull the rug out under climate skeptics, so that governments realise just how important the renewable industry is in creating jobs, but be saving our beautiful planet for future generations.
Great. Thank you. So Richard, we understand you're going to be in Glasgow for the Commonwealth Games in July. The Scottish Government and its agencies are busy running a seminar on sustainable islands, so expect an invitation to wing your way over the next few weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, can I just ask you to thank Sir Richard Branson for joining us, giving us his thoughts in the traditional way.